For today's story, we are dealing with an announcement that Biden has pardoned all marijuana offenses related to simple possession in what seems to be a long overdue step and a first step, perhaps, into more dramatic marijuana reform on federal law. So as I'm sure all of you know, marijuana, although legal under various state law, has been illegal this entire time under federal law. It is a Schedule I drug, the most restricted kinds of drugs that there is. There is no more restricted than that. And it is the most dangerous drug. It is incidentally more restricted than cocaine, which is technically Schedule II, just to show you how absurd this can be. In any event, Biden has pardoned all the simple possession offenses and looking to make some reforms. So let's discuss more. Let's go ahead and get started with this. The president has pardoned all convicted of simple marijuana possession, as opposed to, of course, with intent to distribute, under federal law in what amounts to the most extensive White House action taken on U.S. drug policy. Of course, the president does have unilateral authority to pardon for federal crimes. And so the president has also urged governors to take similar action for state-level offenses for civil possession of marijuana. Also, he's called on the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to consider how marijuana is reviewed under law. So I'm not a super expert on this, but I do believe that the president, under the Controlled Substances Act, does have the authority, or more of the point, the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General have the authority to reclassify marijuana. So the initial classification was set by Congress, but the Controlled Substances Act itself provides a provision that allows for the president, or more of the point, the executive branch, to reclassify it. And it seems like that process has started. Is it illegal to pardon an entire class of convictions? No. No, you can do that. It's been done many times before. Pardoned all the people who dodged the draft in Vietnam. Pardoned all the soldiers who fought for the Confederacy in the Civil War. Mass pardons have been done before, no problem. Sending people to prison for possessing marijuana has upended too many lives and incarcerated people for conduct that many states no longer prohibit, Biden said. Criminal records for marijuana possession have also imposed needless barriers to employment, housing, and education opportunities. And while white and black and brown people use marijuana at similar rates, black and brown people have been arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionate rates. Well, I'm not sure whether or not that's true, but the whole thing is dumb anyway, so that's fine. Pardon everybody. The president added that regulations that limit trafficking, marketing, and sales to minors shouldn't change, but states following the administrative leads, because the vast majority, of course, are convicted under state or local law. So for simple possession, probably not that many convicted under federal law, but there are some, so it's a great start. The president has been clear that marijuana laws are not working. The president has now considered his option as taking executive action. He does have the unilateral ability to pardon and can pardon entire classes of people. So, that's fine. The move, which has been pushed by advocates, brings marijuana policy to the fore just weeks before the midterm election, underscoring how much the politics of the issue have changed. Polling consistently shows that roughly 2/3 of Americans support marijuana legislation. But despite the popularity of legalization, fewer than 1 in 5 of primary candidates mention cannabis reform on the media. Yeah, but, it's becoming more and more accepted. And, as far as I'm concerned, if the president has the ability to change the marijuana classification, and it's my understanding he does, or more the point that Health and Human Services and the Attorney General can change it, and they work for him. So, if he can change it, more power to them. Change it. Change it from Category 1. Change it to literally anything else will be fine. The practical impact may be limited. Most people, of course, in federal prison for cannabis are not in prison for minor offenses. So a number of people this will maybe impact might only be in the thousands. Possibly. But, it's a start and I'll take it. The move, nevertheless, is remarkable for Biden, who has, of course, himself written some of the toughest crime laws on drugs when he was in the Senate. Yeah. Biden was the only Democratic presidential candidate in 2020 who did not support marijuana descheduling, which would make marijuana legal at the federal level. The administration said he wants to reschedule cannabis as Schedule II. That's fine. Lots of things are Schedule II. Medications you may have taken have been Schedule II from time. It's like, yeah, that's great. At least it allows it to be prescribed, and that would be fine. Currently, 37 states and the District of Columbia have legalized medical marijuana, and 19 states have legal use for adult marijuana. 5 states, of course, are voting on recreational marijuana as well. Earlier this year, the Senate Majority Leader introduced a bill to deschedule cannabis and expunge records, which, of course, Congress can also do. The President can pardon, and, of course, it can also be done by legislation because you're removing someone's punishment. So you can do that by law. That's fine. The bill does not have the votes to pass in the Senate. The House has twice passed legislation that would limit federal marijuana penalties, but most Republicans have not supported it. Members of Congress have been working on this issue with one significant bill passing the House. The effort stalled and we're almost to an end in this Congress. Yeah, I think the Republicans should probably get on board on this one. Not for at least the reasons that if it's legalized, that's good for business, right? And I think it would go a long way to helping to end some of the drug war. I think it would go a long way. I wouldn't completely solve the problem, but I think it would help a lot. Biden's announcement on Thursday appeared to catch much of Washington by surprise, with Democratic congressional aides telling Politico the rollout was not coordinated with lawmakers. Well, he doesn't need their approval because he has the unilateral ability to pardon, and he decided to do that. The review process Biden has outlined through HHS and DOJ won't necessarily result in descheduling. It could simply move the marijuana to a lower category of the Controlled Substances Act. Something advocates point out could complicate medical and recreational programs in already legal states. No, it really doesn't complicate it, because state law doesn't have to change in response to it, but it would go a long way. And one would imagine states would adopt to allow for it to be prescription. So, I mean, Schedule 2 isn't necessarily my personal preference, but, you know, if my choice is between Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, Schedule 2 works for me. I mean, I would prefer something like Schedule 4, if not descheduled completely, but, you know, any step that makes it available to be prescribed is a step. Keeping marijuana on the federal drug schedule will mean people will continue to face criminal charges for marijuana. Yeah, only if they don't have a prescription. One would imagine prescriptions will be easier to find. It also means research will continue to be inhibited and state-level markets will be at odds with federal law. Yeah, but it already is. And this is an improvement. I'll take it. It's not ideal, but I'll take it. The Justice Department will expeditiously administer the President's proclamation with pardons of individuals who engage in simple possession of marijuana, restoring political, civil, and other rights to those committed. In the coming days, the Office of the Pardon Attorney will implement a process to provide impacted individuals with certificates of the pardon. So, yeah, the President has pardoned, and now they're going to identify all those people and send them official notices in the mail so that they will have that reflected for their own records. Excellent. The legal cannabis industry is currently projected to hit $32 billion in sales this year, with revenues expected to reach $63 billion in 2028. Thus, that brings us to perhaps a somewhat surprising announcement from the White House that it looks like marijuana is going to be rescheduled. Perhaps not descheduled, but rescheduled. Rescheduled is an improvement because prescription, anything other than Schedule 1 can be prescribed. Schedule 2 drug can be prescribed. And there are Schedule 2 drugs that are prescribed. So, like, it goes from the not prescribable to the prescribable. It makes it restricted, but, you know, not as restricted as Category 1, which by definition, by law, for something to have Schedule 1, it has to have no possible medical use. And to say marijuana has no possible medical use is a bit absurd. To say that it can be addictive or detrimental, okay, less absurd. To say it has no medical use, absurd. So just by the Controlled Substances Act's own definitions, it should not be Schedule 1. So yes, he pardons all simple offenses and has ordered HHS and the Attorney General to reschedule. It looks like it's going to be rescheduled Schedule 2, which is not ideal, but it's better than nothing. And of course, leaves open the possibility of it being scheduled something differently, but really anything is an improvement. And at least for the moment, that brings us to the end of discussion of this story.